Okay, on my screen, I'm going to share my whole screen with you guys. As you will see, once you make it to the first slide, our first content area is ELA. I put some ELA on here for us. So ELA, bell ringer on gerunds. So as you guys join, I can see you down here, same as you could do for your students. Down below, you see how many people are connected to the Nearpod, and making sure that number matches what you have on Teams. So that helps you with class management and keeping students on task for participating within your lesson. All right, so this ELA, bell ringers on gerunds, says to search the internet for a photo of a gerund and post it into the collaborative board. However, do not duplicate a gerund that's been posted. You may react to classmates' posts and be prepared to discuss. The simplest way here, you do not have to go outside of Nearpod to search for the photo. When you go down below where you see it says share your thoughts and or images here, to the right where you see 250, there's this blue square. If you click on that square, it'll give you, yes.
Miss you, please. For those teachers that have Nearpod already, when I go to the second link that you gave, you gave me several options. Which one do you want us to use? Where you have name, just write your name, or just, completing class and homework assignments?
What do you mean it gave you several options?
Okay, where, the second link that you sent to us?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because I'm already using Nearpod. He gave me all the different options that I use. And I'm wondering if you will want just write name or, put completing class and homework assignments. What exactly do you want us? Just write name?
You could just type in your last name. The only reason I'm saying that is because even if you have Nearpod, because even in my last session, there were plenty of teachers that had Nearpod. It still works for them because every Nearpod, every lesson has its own code.
Okay.
So that code is for my class. So that's why it wouldn't be connected to your Nearpod. So you could just type in your name and it just will make you a participant in this lesson.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am. No problem. But for those of you that to search for a picture, hit that square, and right here you can search Google within Nearpod, so you don't have to exit Nearpod to search for a gerund. Awesome. All right, Miss Cabwata. She's got some track. Miss Donaldson. Miss Thompson she's dancing. Now, Miss V Thompson, can I pick on you on purpose?
Yeah, you can pick on me on purpose. I didn't read the directions, so
I want to. That's why I said I'm going to use her on purpose because I know you're a good sport. You could simply tell your students, make sure you follow the directions. That is a gerund. Skiing is a gerund. But let's see if you can find a picture of skiing.
Oh, so now I gotta find it.
Did you see how I went to search for it earlier, Miss Thompson?
In Nearpod?
Yes, ma'am.
So do it again.
Okay. So on the collaborative board itself.
Oh, images. I figured that.
Yeah, click on the images, and this search bar has Google right there, so you can search for it right within Nearpod. And once you find it, you'll just click it and save it. Once you find a photo that you like. So let's see. If we type in skiing and search. Let me make sure to search for it. Search skiing. Okay. So it'll give you photos that you can choose from.
I did.
All right.
Oh, that worked.
Let's see. There you go.
Because I'm working from my phone and my computer.
I understand. Yes, now that is the difference too. Unlike other platforms, Nearpod does limit it if you're using a phone. You can only do so many things. Like, of course, for the kids, they can follow through with a lesson, but as a teacher, if you're trying to do something else, in addition, on your phone, you can only do so much. All right, y'all got some good stuff going on here. I'm purposely going by Harden, but this is what I would allow my students to do. Again, to contribute to each other. Another good tactic about this, especially whether you're using the collaborative board or any other idea that you have going on. Say, for instance, this were a sensitive topic or a topic that students may not want their classmates to know their response to. You could simply hide the names to make the students anonymous. So you as a teacher would have access to know which student was who, but the other students wouldn't. Another parameter that it builds into is when you use the collaborative board, you get to decide on if you want to approve student comments. So for example, for students, yes, I will always approve their comments before they go to the collaborative board, so I don't have to worry about doing damage control afterwards. But since we're all adults, I didn't do that option. I'm letting you guys post what you like without my approval. Miss Oniki, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, that was the question I asked you. I'm sorry, I'm gonna put it down.
Okay, no problem. So we have some examples, some photos of Jaren here, but I'm going to pick on ELA, and I'm going to say, Miss Glass, can you tell the class, explain to the class what a gerund is?
I don't know where she is. I'll jump in.
Yeah, sure, go right ahead.
Oh, okay. A gerund is a verb that is used as a noun. It's a verb. It's a noun that a verb that is used as a noun. For example, running is used, and as Ms. Kabwaka used, is used as a noun instead of a verb.
Thank you, Miss Thompson. Thank you. So
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off, and I was lost. I'm sorry, I was lost. But I got back.
Are you found?
I'm back. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No problem. You need some help?
No, I was over there trying to put my stuff on the board, and then I was like, well, how do I go back and get off mute? And I couldn't. I found it. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. We patient in here. It's all good. Oh, look, and Miss Thompson, she came right in too, so she had your back.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Oh gosh. But as I was saying too, the collaborative board is a way that you can allow your students to be creative, as well as contribute. It can be used for any content area. I just chose ELA, but you guys can of course use it for any content area, any type of discussion you want to have with your kids, any type of brainstorming. To begin a unit, I mostly would say, especially vocabulary. Some teachers may gear towards this for using for the ELT classes, ELT vocabulary, so that may be helpful as well. But it's across the board for any subject area. Before I move on to the next activity, anybody need any clarification about? Yes, go ahead.
So when I use Nearpod, but I don't remember seeing the collaborative board. So when you do it, does the images link automatically pop up, or you had to add that?
Which images link?
Down at the bottom says share your thoughts and your images here.
Yes, ma'am. That's automatic. It's automatic. Only thing that I was responsible for was the title and providing the students with directions. And I also put a little photo up there of a gerund, but everything else Nearpod does for you.
All right. Okay,
yes,
thank you.
No problem. One more thing I'm going to show you that I didn't do for you guys on my screen is, let me make sure. No, it's on my next slide. Never mind. I'll show y'all on the next one. All right. Moving on from ELA, we're going to jump into a simulation. This is a simulation activity that you can use with your students. Before I get into this topic of, this is forces in motion. Forces in motion with net force. Can someone raise their hand and tell us what type of scenario this is? Can someone tell us what type of scenario this is? Yes, Ms. Barnett.
I'm sorry, I thought I was unmuted this whole time.
No, I was like, let me go check on her. Okay.
I was saying, when you say scenario, like, what does it look like? Because it looks like
Yes.
tug of war.
What does this scene look like to you?
It
Like,
looks like tug of war.
it is. It's exactly tug of war.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So it is. It's tug of war. Forces in motion. Net force. This would be eighth grade science. So physical science. Incorporating that with these students. So,
Yeah.
so in this case, this gives the students the idea of, now I can do a simulation of finding the net force. You know, for us, we know how to find the net of something. You know, this minus that. That's what I'm left with. But for a student, this shows them the different push and pull of an object. So I'm going to call on here. Let me see who we have in here. I think I saw. All right, Miss Dawson. I'm going to let you be the blue team. It's going to be Miss Dawson versus Miss Capwatha. Miss Capwatha, you'll be the red team.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Miss Dawson, on the blue side, would you care to use all of your people? And if so, or if not, what position would you like to place them in?
No, I just use two.
Okay. And which two would you like to use?
The short one in the front and the tall one in the back.
Okay, short one in the front and tall one in the back. All right. So Miss Dawson is all set up. Miss Capwatha, how would you like to set up your team?
The third one in the front and the fourth one in the back.
Okay, third one in the front, fourth one in the back. Now, before I even start the simulation, it gives the kids a visual of what they can probably expect to happen. Right now, on Miss Capwatha's team, she's working with more force than Mrs. Dawson's team. We see that visually, but let's see what happens when we press go. Let's see what happens with the war. All right. She took you down, Dawson. Took you down. I'm sorry. We can't win them all. Okay, but for a student, this is like, okay, now I get it. But even though they provide, you know, the information here that there will be a net of 50 in right force. For our students, especially since we aren't in a building to use those type of manipulatives or, you know, to take them outside or whatever the case may be, this is something that is definitely interactive in the classroom or hands-on. And I will say, with the simulations are geared towards science and math. So these type of simulations are for science and math. Currently, right now with Nearpod, I believe they may progress into other subject areas after that. But I do still have more for you guys, so don't worry. Any questions about the simulations? So, Ms. Dawson, looking at what you had here, a discussion that typically we can have with the students is asking them what they would have done differently. So, Ms. Dawson, what do you think you would have done differently?
Probably moved him up or yeah, definitely moved instead
Move him closer.
Move him closer to and got a bigger person than that smaller one.
Okay. And that would have definitely helped the odds as far as force is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Parks, I see you have your hand raised.
I'll ask it later. Never mind. Thank you.
All right, no problem. You sure?
Well, my question was, are you gonna show us how to get to all of these, like access the simulations and the
Ms. Parks,
yes.
would I leave you hanging?
No, I know. I was just making sure. Okay, that's why I said never mind. But okay.
I'm not this. I'm purposely doing it this way because I want you guys to experience it first. So if you know what it's capable of, then you can determine what you actually want to use with your students.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. No problem at all. Ms. Barnett?
I was making an observation as I was playing with this, and I was noticing that even if you are have more weight on one side, depending on how fast or the speed that it's going, if you try to like balance it, it'll still go to the other side because of the speed at which it's going. Does that make sense?
All right, we can simulate it though to make sense. So what are you saying? Add more weight over here?
Well, press restart or restart it.
All right.
Oh no, you can leave those on there. I'm sorry, I didn't even see all those up there. I'm sorry, I still have mine on up. Press go.
So if we press go now, it'll be that same result
right
from previous. So should we? You saying we should, as a student, then have them to add more people or subtract from another team?
Neither. I'm saying press go now, and then as it's going, add to the blue side, but now. So you see how you try to get it to balance it to see if it would. You get what I'm saying? Like if there were kids playing and another person came to help them, if they were already going at this certain speed, even if somebody tried to help them, they would still lose because of the time at which they came into the game. That makes sense.
So the extra component of yes, this is a net force of 0, but now we have momentum.
Right.
Yeah. So that will go into, of course, a discussion question or an extension of the lesson for the kids as well, just to get them into doing the critical thinking part. But having this simulation would be the best visual for them to see that too.
And yes, and like throwing different scenarios at them, like see what happened if you tried this or if you tried that. I was just like, I was playing with it and I saw that and I was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you for contributing that. Appreciate it. All right, so again, like I said, I'm getting everybody involved. So we had ELA, we had science. Now we're going to go into math. So today in the math, you have an equation. So 10x minus 5 equals 0. This is called the draw it activity. This activity allows you to use your screen as if it were a coloring book. So you can write on it, but you can also have the option to type into the screen as well. On this question here, there's steps here for you to do inverse operations, simplify, inverse, and then solve for your final math problem. What I want you guys to be able to see as the teachers is while you are working, I can see all of you. So that, again, that's for anyone that hasn't used Nearpod, that hasn't had that opportunity, but I get to see all students to scaffold virtually. So I can instantly say, okay, you go ahead and get started. Make sure you're participating. And it assists with a participation grade. Now, as for today, yes, everyone is expected to be participating right now. Because as you do something, of course, it's easier for you to incorporate it with your students. You can answer questions easier that your students may have if you've done it yourself. So you have the option when they do draw it, they can, of course, change colors, stuff that's important to kids. They can change the colors, they can do whatever the fact. But for my students, while we're doing this also helps with troubleshooting, because they can't see all of each other's screens right now. They can only see their own screen. But as a teacher, if you see a student going in the wrong direction, for example, on an assignment, you can instantly, give them some hints or, call on them and give them a reminder of a step they need to take just to assist them. Because ultimately what Nearpod does is once you finish each session, it creates a report for you and it grades it. So even though you're teaching this session, you can also use this as a classwork grade. And I'll show you guys the reports later on, but you can use it as a classwork grade and instantly see who participated and who did which, or who tried to skip a lesson. It shows you all of that information in the reports. So I will share that once we get to it. Okay.
Am I answer right? That's all I want to know.
Let me go look for you. Let's see. Well, you're still in progress, so are you committing to your answer?
That's a good thing because I forgot to submit and my kids forget to submit too.
I need help.
And that may be definitely part of it. Miss Dawson, what's going on?
I don't know.
You need help with math or help with Nearpod?
With this math, I don't know these letters.
Okay, po thing. So, thank you, Mrs. Dawson. Thank you, Ms. Dawson, for needing assistance because I need students. I need that. So, as a teacher, all right, Ms. Dawson, she needs some help. So, what I can do now is I can be sure to go into student mode. Okay, so let me go into student mode, and that's here at the top right corner.
Oh, it is.
So yes, you'll see an S right there. So I'll switch into student view and become a student with my kids to explain it to them. Okay. So now they'll see my screen that looks like theirs. And I use the tools right along with them. So the first thing, Latravia, I'll change my color. I'll tell my students to put the little dash line through the equal sign because that's a skill that they've learned, a skill that we've practiced in class, just something like that. Now the second line says inverse operation. Inverse operation means we have to do the opposite operation of whatever we're being given. Now, this is a two-step equation. So for my math people, when we do a two-step equation, what does the first step consist of?
Okay, you have to you undo with positive. Undo the -5 with +5.
Undo the variable.
Right.
No, undo the well, it depends on the side you want to go.
The coefficient.
You can undo the -5 with +5.
Yes, add 5 to both sides.
Okay.
To get rid of the x.
All right, so we need to add 5. Ultimately, we need to get rid of the x, clearly. All right, first thing we do, step 1 is either add or subtract. We add or subtract depending on the operation we're already given. So we're given subtraction and they tell us to do the inverse. So what do we have to do?
+5,
add. There we go. We have to add. There we go. Good job. So the reason I do this dash line is so the kids can remember to add on both sides. So they have to add 5 on both sides.
A +5.
There we go. Some good participation grades in here.
And that's from ELA.
Then you subtract.
All right. So now with these 5s here,
we have 10x.
we're going to count these 5s. Was that you, Miss Oniki?
Yes.
All right. Yes, ma'am. We'll bring down the 10x.
10x equals 5.
Equals 5. You getting all this, Dawson?
Yes.
Now you do the inverse. You use the reciprocal. You divide by 10.
Reciprocal.
Or you multiply
vocabulary.
10. Depends on the term you use for your student.
Reciprocal or opposite operation. So this now the students would be into step 2. So again, step 2 is you're doing that opposite operation. 10x is already multiplication. So saying reciprocal or opposite operation would be to divide. So they would divide by 10 on both sides. Ms. Dawson, what would I get once I do that?
X equals 5/10.
Okay, can 5/10 be simplified?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll simplify it to 1/2. Now for the students, that last part where it says check, this is where I have them check their own works. And Ms. Eubanks, is this right? Is this right? They have X equal to 1/2, so now they have to place it into the original problem. So have 10 times 1/2 instead of 10 times X. So 10 times 1/2. I'm trying to go quick as I can. Minus 5. Well, what is 10 times 1/2?
5.
It's 5. And 5 minus 5, does that equal 0?
Yes.
Yes, it does. So then they would give themselves their own check mark. And ta-da.
Miss Eubanks, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With the students in their Chromebooks, do you find that they're able to, do they usually type, or are their Chromebooks touchscreen where they can like write on their screen?
They typically do both, and some of them are writing on their screen. But what I've encouraged with my students is to have a stylus.
Okay.
Because they can get those pretty cheap now. Like it won't cost no more than about maybe $5 or $6 for a decent one, and that'll help them with the drawing or writing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. Ms. Barnett?
I will also recommend if they can't find a stylus, Walmart has really cheap what do you think? Sorry, a mouse, the wireless mouse.
Right.
Wireless mice. Yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. Are there any other questions about the draw it part? Now, I did it for math. All these activities that I'm doing can be incorporated in any topic, any subject area. So immediately you can switch from being the student to going back to the teacher view. Click on the T in the right corner, and it'll take me back to where we were. What I would do here is make sure that everyone has clicked on submitted, because if they haven't, then once the lesson finishes, they wouldn't receive credit for this portion of the lesson. So I would be like, who am I picking on? Ms. Walker. I would say, Ms. Walker, make sure you turn in and submit your assignment. Ms. Glass, you never started, sweetheart, so you wouldn't get credit.
Miss Eubanks.
I started, I just didn't submit it. So I started on the other screen. I'm sorry.
It says awaiting drawing.
Miss Eubanks, for some reason, I don't have the student template for me to be able to do that.
Yes, ma'am, because you aren't the teacher right now.
Oh, okay.
That's what that is.
Yeah. So if you can flip me back to student, I can turn in my work.
Yes, yours should say student version.
Oh, yeah, it's still S.
Yes, ma'am. So you can submit it because you will stay in student version. So with this portion, so you will be in the student version. I know it's a little weird for you because you're used to teaching it, but yes, you would just be in the student version right now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So I can turn in then because I'm clicking on it. It's not giving me something to work with.
Oh, okay, Miss Onika, you must have worked with Miss Glass then earlier. Y'all were in the.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all were working together. Okay, I understand. All right, so we're gonna go on. All right, this next slide, this is actually a sway. What I'm incorporating here is I wanted to also show you guys how, especially when you're teaching synchronously, one thing that we always say is we lose time, and it's typically from going from page to page or tab to tab, whatever the case may be. So I wanted to incorporate another platform within the Nearpod so you guys can see that. So for example, as I mentioned, like my other sessions, if you're using like iExcel or whatever the case may be, you can make that all one Nearpod. So your kids aren't clicking everywhere and you're waiting for them to get to the next website. It's automatically already there for you. Some of you may, again, be familiar with Sway or may have used Sway. So if so, great. So that'll give y'all that option. This one here is on Africa. Sway is very interactive. It reminds me of like a new and improved type of Prezi, if you ever used Prezi before. But it actually really gets the kids to investigate. You can choose different topics, different countries. And I definitely wanted to incorporate social studies in here. For example, with Africa, here you'll see where it says they have the 54 independent countries. Students can have an opportunity to read through each of these countries. So when they click here, as if they were note cards. So they have virtual note cards. So it really helps them build that part. I believe Africa, is that 7th grade social studies?
That's correct, Ms. Dorth. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jackson. So yes, so for 7th grade, this will be something that can actually maybe be an introduction for you, just to get the kids familiar with it. Like I said, it goes through what languages the people speak and that of that nature. But I mainly wanted to show you guys that Nearpod is a basis for everything that you have being included into one place. And as you're teaching, if, for example, if something gets asked or somebody has a question, as you're teaching, you can edit a Nearpod. So for example, you'll see up here where it says the add an activity option. So if something is going on, or say we do an assignment or whatever the case may be, I can click to add an activity right away to the assignment that we're doing. If I wanted to change something right then and there, or just for that class, I can click here and add a slide, or add a, let me do a check-in with the class. Who's feeling this? Who's doing that? Or whatever the case may be, can be added automatically at that time. All right.
Ms. Eubanks, can I ask a question now or later?
Oh, Miss Oniki, can we type it in the chat? I'm losing time, so I want to make sure I get through everything. But if you type it in the chat, I will have portions of getting back to the questions.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. This is the other simulation for math. So this is an area model example for math for our students. Again, giving them that visual instruction where they can see how area is built. They can also manipulate the pictures and the area itself. I chose this idea because mostly area is about maybe 5th, 6th. But even as a 7th grade teacher, some of my students still have difficulties with this. So, we aren't beyond that, or whatever their grade level is. If they need help, they need help. So this helps to give that visual of when we use like an algebra tile or any other type of manipulative that we aren't using right now, or that we don't have to be able to access with our students right now at this time. And again, this is only one concept. Once we go into the activities themselves, like I said, unfortunately for the simulations right now, it's only geared towards math and science. But when I tell you, it's plenty of options, from fractions to basic numbers, and every idea changes. Like they may be mixing a mixing station or whatever, but it's building idea of fractions and setting it up. So I will show you guys that later. All right. All right, on your student screen, you have a fill in the blank. Okay, you have a fill in the blank. So I'll change the student version right now. On this fill in the blank, I used health. So I used puberty. So that's, I think, is that 6th grade health? I'm not sure. I think that's what Mr. Coach Hale told me. So again, this can be used in any content area. The fill in the blank option is simply you just have if you want to type in a phrase or information that students should know. And after you do that, you just take out words, or you just black out different words, and it becomes a word bank. So the students themselves are responsible for filling in the word bank completely. And once they're done filling in completely, They press done and it submits straight to you. Now, the difference with the fill in the blank is you can review it with the students, but it won't show the results directly right away, simply because it treats itself as if it were a quiz sometimes. So even with this last one, it goes to the reports, but that's going to be part of our assessment part. So I will show you guys how to find reports and find out who completed what and who didn't. All right, go back to teacher view. All right, this may look familiar to some science teachers. Now, I won't say what this is, but you may have seen something like this. This is our 3D, the Nearpod 3D models. Nearpod has a 3D model for almost every topic you can think of, from vehicles to animals to anything else, and structures as well. I think this is very useful for our students to be able to see and get a close-up view of, I'm not going to say what this is because that's going to be on the next slide. And after they do their investigation, so after you let them investigate independently, on the next slide, they would have a question. This is an activity. This is called, hold on, let me put this here. This is called an open answer, where they will have an activity. It's saying let's go because I timed this activity. So it says, was the previous activity an example of a plant cell or an animal cell? And then list characteristics / organelles to support your answers. If you see on my screen, this is, you have 4 minutes. So you have to determine whether it was a plant cell or an animal cell, and also list some characteristics to support the answer that you gave. So let's see. I know some of y'all are probably Googling.
Can you go back to the picture?
Yeah, to the picture.
Sure. What are we dealing with here?
Is there any way we can have both the picture and the answer part? Or no? It's gotta be one or the other.
So I see Miss Donaldson has an answer.
For some reason, I'm still not getting.
Mr. Harrison. What was that, Miss Oniki?
I'm not able to type in my answer. I don't know why.
Let me see where you are.
Up at the top.
Miss Oniki, did you use that same link that's in the chat?
Yes. I see the link here. RIVT5.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, that's the code.
Okay.
That's the code. That's not the link.
Yeah.
I placed a direct link in the chat.
Let me. Okay.
So if the code was giving you trouble, the link will take you directly to where we are.
Okay. Yeah, I was watching your yeah.
I see you, Miss Thompson. One thing I did want to reference is the clock. So that this clock or time portion, that it does make sure you're staying on task with what's going on with the lesson. And it also, once that time expires, the lesson closes. So the activity closes. So students know, I don't need to waste time. Let me make sure I get this going. And mostly this is for something as simple as this. Like, okay, what was it? What did you see? Give them a few moments. I typically add the clock to the bell ringer as well, so that the students won't just use extended time on the bell ringer, you know, when we're trying to move into the lesson. Or you also need that time to actually review the lessons. I know I'm probably not the only one, but I know there's been a couple times where my bell ringer turned into my lesson, and you know, everything else just ended up carrying over to the next day. So the timer does help out. All right. So in conclusion, we were looking at what kind of cell, Miss Berry? Y'all getting shy on me?
It's not her, but it's Miss Barnett. That's the animal cell, right?
Yes, we were looking at an animal cell. It's an animal cell. Miss Walker, can you tell us why it was an animal cell, not a plant cell?
Okay, so a plant cell is green because of the chlorophyll.
That's important. Yes, ma'am.
They're also kind of square or rectangular in shape.
Okay.
And this cell didn't have a cell wall, it only had a cell membrane.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Walker.
No problem.
Y'all know the science people. Yes. And that's just that conversation too that you have the opportunity to have with your students. Now, for this portion of the session, that's come to a close. That's where you guys were going to be the students. So again, I didn't do every single activity that Nearpod has, but I did incorporate some of the major ones I think you guys would want to use. And now we're going to move on to the next portion. So I'll show you guys for this session. We will end the session. And once we end a session, it provides you with a report on the data or who contributed to it. Me personally, I end my session every class period instead of trying to keep the same Nearpod all day. That way I can separate my kids up. But of course, that's up to you, however you decide to do it once you get into the platform. So I'll end the session. But I'd rather not have such a long list to look at. So that's why I end for every class period. Now, what you guys are seeing right now is my Nearpod library. So this is be a basic page when you first come in. And again, this is due to, for some of you that haven't seen Nearpod. Like, actually, let me remove this one. All right, so now we're going to get into the assessment portion of it. So those reports that I was just talking about are right over here to the left side. So you click on the reports menu. Okay. Once you click there, it'll bring up all of the Nearpod, the libraries that you have. I did fail to mention that what we're using now, or well, I'll say what I'm using now, is a free version of Nearpod, which means that I have a limit to how many lessons I can download at a time. So once my students finish a topic or a certain lesson, I can download the report for it and then delete the lessons to make room for new lessons. Otherwise, I would have to pay for a subscription, and no. So it's just about, making a little room. But you can have that data there and then go back in. So for our session, the PL session we did, if we click on it, as you can see, I do have 2 sessions, and that's why I did that on purpose to separate the classes. So we can look at the session for this one, this current session, and it'll give you the information just like it would, just like it would typically look on like Illuminate. So at the top, you'll see the student participation just in general. And it showed me that 45% of the students were skipping problems and the other 55 are the ones that participated. So it will break it down to those extents. And then, of course, down to the name of the students. So for every feature, every activity that we did, it was broken up into a grade. So you will get a grade for each one. So for example, if you wanted to give 3 different grades, you could. If fill in the blank activity was an assignment, draw it was an assignment, and the open-ended question, those are 3 grades you can give, or you can give an overall grade. So this would be according to what you want to do for your own grade book. Of course, you have the autonomy to decide, but it does give you an opportunity to see the progress as far as see who did what, and also go back to them and ask, what may you need to, maybe review. What do you need to go over with the students? Before I proceed any further past this portion, are there any questions about the assessment portion or the data?
Okay, so everything that you submitted should show here, right?
Correct.
Can you scroll down? Let me see. Because I thought I submitted. I probably did fill in the blank. Cool.
Let me see.
I like this. I mean, I use Nearpod, but not to this extent.
Got you. Okay, and then that too is just take a little bit of tweaking. Okay, so it's just saying this for the fill in the blank one. It wasn't submitted.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So, like I said again, as a teacher, you can decide on whether that student should receive a 67 just overall, just make it a whole Nearpod lesson, or if you give a 100, a 100, and a 0. I mean, just depending on how you want it to look defined as far as your grade book. And another portion of this before I leave is, again, as far as making space, like I said, space in your library. So after a lesson is completed, up top up here, you have the option to download it. So download this data and save the file. And once you download this data, then now you can delete the lesson to make room for brand new material. So I would encourage using that part as well. Secondly, you can even share the data. Say, there was inquiries from instructional coach or another teacher. If you want to share your data with them, like this is how my students did with integers, you could simply click share and then send them an email with that sheet so they can see how they did with it on that lesson that you did. So this is incorporating other people. Now to move forward a little bit with the assessment and feedback, I also now want you guys to see it in real time. Okay, so we're gonna view 2 short videos. Before we view those, let me show you this concept. For those of you that haven't seen the Nearpod, once you hover over a lesson, you have options of how you're going to present it. There are 3 options: live plus Zoom, live, or student paced. I will say, in my own experience, the live plus Zoom is kind of glitchy. So I don't typically use this first option. Even if you're teaching with Zoom, you can still just teach it live and just share your screen. But it's like once they get embedded together, there's like, I have to keep starting over the lesson or so on and so forth. So I typically just use these 2 options. So that's just to teach it live with the students and provide them with a code, or assign it to them as student paced. I'm going to go over student paced later. So I'm going to go ahead and get us into these 2 videos. All right, you guys don't have to sign in for them because I'm just going to play them through it. And this is our first one. All right, Donnie, tell us what we're looking at. Can everyone hear?
Okay.
And why you chose these?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I chose these because 18 is like a daily number we use.
Okay.
-3, -3, because it's still a normal number and it doesn't continue like it doesn't keep continuing.
That's correct.
And 5-7 as well. And 1.67, they also don't continue. And they're normal numbers as well.
Okay, so everyday number. Can anyone tell? All right. And we're going to go to this second one. So I'm showing you from accelerated and as well as general math, just so you can see both sides. Okay.
The 4 times 3, which gave me 12x. Okay. The 4, and then I did 2 times 6, which gave me the regular 12, and then I did 2 times 2x, which gave me 4x.
Okay. And after that, what was your next train of thought?
To combine the like terms.
Awesome. Good vocabulary. Combine like terms. So with Takaya combining her like terms, gave her a total of 8x minus 16. If we look at 8x and 16, could we combine those? Say, for example, if we were matching socks, would these 2 socks match?
Yes.
So you had a sock with 8 stripes and then a sock with nothing on it, and they would match. They would match. They would not. All right. Okay, so that's, again, to give you guys an idea. On that second video, I also want to point out that was from Daily Dose. So for my math teachers that use that, you can incorporate anything into these Draw It or video type sessions. Now, before I continue, make sure I don't have any questions. Nope. Okay. Now, with doing the assessments themselves, of course, for the students, it's really important to be able to allow them to talk through their problems. And since using Nearpod, I've noticed that even some of the shyest students are a little bit more confident about contributing to their work, because for one, they don't have to show their face. They just have to have their screen up there. So I think for some of the kids that kind of takes the anxiety out of speaking in front of the class. So that's one thing I definitely like about the Nearpod, and it allows you to still have that idea of being able to scaffold your students just in a virtual aspect of it. So that part I definitely appreciate. We're going to get into right now, this time, the asynchronous learning and being able to provide the students with a lesson that they can complete on their own. So what I'm going to do is, I believe I have, is Ms. Ewing in here today? Yes.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
How you doing, Ms. Ewing? I thought about you because I wanted to make sure I incorporated everybody's content. So we're going to do some art.
Oh, awesome.
All right. So in order to find a new Nearpod, you simply go to the Nearpod library, and there are over 8,000 lessons that are already made for you. And when I say lessons, I mean starting from the essential question. They give you everything that you would need to prepare for teaching the lesson. The featured things here, of course, if you decided that maybe you wanted to speak on a current event, or you just wanted to introduce something else to your students, like there's something else going on you want to introduce to them, or even a holiday, they have those as well. But I'm going to go straight into the lesson portion. Now, what I will show you guys is, if you know specifically what you want to teach, you can type that in. You can type that right into the space bar and they'll give you options. But I'm going to go to lessons just so you can see the topics that are offered. So in Nearpod, these are the topics that are offered for lessons, and that's pretty much everybody that's on the line. We're going to look at fine arts. We are going to take a look at fine arts. Okay. And they have it separated by grade level, so 6 through 8. And how about some color? Okay, so these are all of the slides. Now, fine arts, of course, does include music. So there are some music lessons as well. So we're going to look at color really quickly. What we're doing right now is actually previewing a lesson. So you haven't added it to your library, but even without you adding it to the library, you get to see every aspect of the lesson before you make a decision. So we'll preview it. Like I said, they prepare you with everything. They show you the materials you would need, and so on and so forth, depending on how intense this lesson would get. And again, there's the essential questions. So they break down everything for you. This is how can understanding color help us create and respond to art. All right. Learning objectives as well. So everything you need would be provided with the lesson, especially with the pre-made lessons. So let's see. All right, let me go back. All right, so this lesson starts off with a seasons, quote unquote, field trip. You start off the class visiting 2 different seasons, fall and winter. And as the students explore the seasons, they compare the colors that they see in each scene and how the colors are different from the seasons. So let's take a look ourselves. Okay. So that's a panoramic view of fall. Students would view, and then they would get a panoramic view of winter. Okay. Now to incorporate that, their activity would be compare the colors that you saw in fall and winter. How are the colors different, and how did they make you feel? Ms. Jewing, would this be something that you could incorporate, or that you could see yourself incorporating as far as the students?
No, definitely. I mean, especially concerning stuff like color theory and the principles of art, it's something that's very hard to teach without a visual, and I think this is really perfect.
Oh, so that's great. I'm glad to hear it. So Ms. Jewing says she likes it. So what she could do is add it to her library. And once she adds it to her library, because she has enough space, then we go back to this top left corner. We click on the Nearpod, and now that lesson is available in Miss Jewing's library. So she has elements of art, and the topic is color. She has several ways that she can incorporate this now with her students. For one, she can teach this to them herself, or she can do the student pace. Okay, so this is the portion of the asynchronous learning, and it's definitely going to come into play for us once we return with map testing as well. If you weren't using it before, this will give you an opportunity to have a lesson prepared for your students, that you can know that they're doing some work that's, of course, not quote unquote busy work, and that this material is something that you want them to be sure that they're covering to keep up with the content while you are not able to give them live instruction. So that's what's very valuable about the Nearpod. So we'll click on student pace. Okay. Once you click on student pace, you have this screen comes up. They always can have a code for the Nearpod. There's an option as well to make sure that you require that the students respond so they don't skip anything. So you can make sure that it's forced to respond and won't continue, as well as setting a due date. Okay, you can change the due date. Nearpod always sets the due date for a month. So if you don't want this to be available for a month, like if you do want there to be an ending date, you just simply click on the calendar and you update your own due date. So you just change it. And once you do, then the days will update themselves. Just apply it. Now, all of us, since especially in virtual learning, have used several different platforms as far as teaching our students or even reaching out to parents. So there are several ways as far as that you can assign this to your students. If you have a Google Classroom, you can simply click on the Google Classroom link and assign this lesson for your students to complete asynchronously, and it will post automatically to your Google Classroom. If you wanted to post to Remind, if you have a student Remind and you want them to have this assignment that way, you have the option, autonomy to do that as well. Me personally, I use the link and I link it in my Verge. And the reason I do that is because I just like to keep all of their assignments in the same place. But I also know that several teachers not only just teach in teams, you also have assignments in teams. So for those teachers, if you click on the Microsoft Teams option, if you actually have assignments in the teams, give me 1 second. Did this last time. Let me refresh it. Okay, student pace. Yeah. All right, so if you wanted to post an assignment in Teams, you simply just click on this Teams icon, and you have, for one, you have an option of posting it to the page itself, so posting it to the channel, or deciding to create an assignment out of it, whichever one of those that you choose. I'm just going to keep it as shared to the channel, and I'm going to share it to this channel that we're on right now. So share to, you just type in a channel. All right, so this is the PL session. So once I click share in this channel that we have, this whole lesson will post, and the students will complete that lesson because that's their asynchronous. It will simply just go straight to Teams. So let's go back and take a look. If I go to Teams. Okay, so now that Nearpod lesson is on the general page for us. Okay, before I keep going, was there a question? Did I miss somebody? Nope. Okay. Now, the link itself, that's the option that I use. So let me go back. I use the link option, so I'll show you guys what it looks like in my classroom. And again, like I said, that's just because I like to keep it all together, so the kids don't have an opportunity to say, oh, I didn't know to go here or go there. So I definitely like to keep it all together for me personally, and I don't teach through Teams. So I'll show you guys what it would look like in my class. Okay, so for my students, they had an assignment, a Nearpod asynchronous lesson. Of course, I give them a title, and I link text. So I link the text here so they can either click there, and I also provide the code. So I still provide them with two options, but keeping it all together is it's just easier for me. So keeping it all in Verge for them versus me using it in another platform. But of course, we all teach differently. So if it works for you to place it in Teams, then that's perfectly fine. Now, a major aspect of it too is, even though we're giving our students an asynchronous lesson, say if you're not in class, for example, if you have a para or if you have a substitute for that time, let's go back to the Nearpod. You can actually share this with them. Okay, how can you do that? Up here, click on these three dots here, and it says to share with teachers. So if you click to share with teachers, this whole lesson, most importantly, make sure you click on the editable link. The editable link will allow the teacher to have access to the entire lesson. So share this editable link to that substitute teacher or the para or the instructional coach, whoever's covering your class. That way they can lead along with the students as well. So they will have access if the students have questions or whatever, and they can be able to see that, because unfortunately, well, of course, the paras and instructional coaches have access to Verge, but substitutes don't. So this is a way for you to make sure that whoever's in your class also has access to the work, so that your students don't feel like they're on an island, or even just so that an instructor doesn't feel like they're helpless to help the students. You want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to contribute. In addition to this, I have a PDF for the substitute pairs to show you guys how to accept the lesson and how to go through a lesson once it's been shared with you. So I will send that out later on. But before I keep it moving, are there any questions so far? Any questions so far? Anyone need clarification?
No question.
All right.
Ms. Eubank, I think I'll ask my question at the end, because it has with something to do with inserting the interactive for example, if I take my PowerPoint that I've made and just put into the Nearpod, it gives me everything. But, you know, getting to the interactive part, to make it interactive, that's the part that, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to do. We can talk about it later so that you can keep moving.
Actually, we're at that point where we're talking about creating an activities, Miss Oniki. So
okay, good.
Creating a lesson. So in setting up your lesson from scratch, so creating one for yourself. You
It's just, you know, I have a lesson already in PowerPoint that, but I want, you know, just like, you see the interactive part of the Nearpod, where the students can do something, can actually write something. Is that section? That's the section that I'm concerned.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm getting to.
Okay, good.
But you have to create from it first, though. So when you click create lessons, and at this portion, like you said, you have your own lesson already. Well, this is where you add it in, but you have to create a Nearpod lesson first. So once you create, for everyone, once you create a Nearpod lesson, they have an option here, of course, for you to change the name of it, and as well as to add and change any of the slides that we have. And that's what I used earlier today when we were talking about the activities. Okay, so we'll start off, say, add a slide. Now, once you add a slide, again, as Miss Oniki was speaking, like you can add in a PDF. If you want to add in a PDF, if that was the case, maybe if you had a story or something to read, you can do that as well. But in the rest of these activities, for example, something I really want to express is a loophole. We face the issue with DeKalb County of students not being allowed to use YouTube. And, you know, I get it as far as certain restrictions and things of that nature. But even as teachers, there are certain things on YouTube that are helpful and that are still useful. So through Nearpod, where this option that says web content, when you copy and paste a YouTube video into this Nearpod, it allows the student to watch it. So that is your way around YouTube if you need it, just, you know, especially for instructional purposes, because it's not read as YouTube, it's read as Nearpod. So that's a directive there. Also, the web content portion of it is it keeps your whole lesson all together. So for example, say you're in the middle of, you know, teaching your lesson and you want the students to transition to another website, for example, iExcel or ClassWorks or anything of that nature. You can go ahead and embed the lesson or go ahead and embed ClassWorks, whatever the case may be, in Nearpod, and it will just simply be another slide instead of a process of you waiting for students to get onto their lesson. So this helps you actually keep it all together when they're not working on independent work. So I do appreciate that part. I'll let you guys see some of the 3D tools if you haven't seen them already. So this is some of the stuff that we had from earlier. And any of these, so here's the plant cell. So if any of these, of course, you have an option to preview them before you add them into your lesson. So you can decide on how or when, okay, yeah, I'll use this. Or if you change your mind, you can go back and find something else. Okay, and let's see. And the simulation. So again, unfortunately, like I said, the simulation is strictly for math and science right now. As you can see, they do math elementary through high school and science elementary through high school. And they do all of these topics here that you can incorporate even for practice for your students. So if I level it off, say middle school math, and then everything for middle school math, of course, would be built in. As you choose the topics, you're deciding on whether you're, for example, whether you're doing area or if you're doing fractions, whatever the case may be. It gives students that that visual of, let me put this into play. Let me see how this works in real time. Before they're applying it to a quiz or a test, they can actually get a visual of it, especially if they're having trouble. I'll look at some science as well. So science, chemical equations, that's a bit up there. All right, so like here, like bending light. So you can actually preview the activity before you add it into a lesson in itself. And this is something that you would have determined with your students as far as what type of wave that they were dealing with, what type of ray this was. Now, those, of course, are the top content as far as Nearpod. I will say, unfortunately, the virtual reality field trip does not work well because we don't have any virtual reality glasses. So you would need the glasses in order for that to work well. Still doesn't mean you can't make up your own field trip with using all these activities, but that's the only one that doesn't work too well. Miss Oniki, what you were speaking to, the slideshow portion here allows you to, once you import your own, you can import your own slides. And then after you've imported your slides, you just add activities around it. So you can add your own information to it. Another, where is it at? Video. Another thing, not video, the video. Okay, so it's not gonna let me do that today now. Never mind, we won't do video. All right, activities. So Ms. Parks, I know you were asking about this earlier. This is where you find the activities yourself. If you wanted to incorporate it, say for instance, you wanted to use a collaborative board, I'll show you, this is what it looks like from scratch. And you would enter a topic and you would provide students with instructions. And you can determine how you want your board to look and things of that nature. So the same board we did, this is how you would use it here. Y'all let me know if I'm going too fast.
No, it's okay.
You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Kiki. So again, some of the draw it or open-ended questions, all the information there is available to you, even down to a flip grid. You can, like I said, you can add everything into the Nearpod itself. So you only have to worry about one code to provide your students and they can take care of the rest. Before I continue, any questions specifically? Save and exit.
Ms. Eubanks, there's a question in the chat from Mr. Harrison. Does it have the option of adding a co-teacher?
You can share, you can definitely share it with the teacher, but your co-teacher will still need to get their own account because it's linked. I know mine especially is linked to my Office 365. So they would need their own account for sure. And you guys are really great with timing because that's what we're about to get into next, Mr. Harrison. So for those of you that do not have a Nearpod, on your screen, you're going to open a new page to nearpod.com, and there'll be an option there. It'll say students, teachers, and administrators. Under teachers, you will create an account, and I recommend using your Office 365. And the only reason I say that is because it sends me updates about my students to my email. But you can, of course, use your Google account as well. And what I'm challenging you guys to do is to create or incorporate your own lesson. Go find one lesson that you feel like you can incorporate with your students, one that you'd incorporate synchronously, and one that you can assign to them asynchronously. So anyone that doesn't already have a Nearpod, if you need assistance with setting up the account, let me know. And while I give you guys time to do that, I'm also going to place a PL survey into the chat, so you can contribute to that. But if you run into any troubles or anybody that has questions about incorporating the activity into a self-made lesson, feel free to ask that. I'm here to assist you guys, but I want y'all to be able to build your own or use the pre-built lessons as well. while I'm able to assist you. Okay, so let me go and get that link for you guys. Miss Thompson, if you won't mind me asking, how have you used it recently with your students? Miss V Thompson.
Okay, so I've used open-ended questions. I've also used it with teaching transitions. I did it teaching argument writing. I was just looking at the lessons because I got to get rid of some, so this term I can add some more. Let me see. Let me go back to my and I was going to tell you, I don't know if you said it and I could have missed it, that they should have the students log in with their school email address. So when it comes up with their school name and not something else.
Exactly.
Okay, now I figure out how to delete it. Identify the claim. What did I do with this?
I'm sorry.
I was just trying.
Somebody was speaking. I missed somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was me.
Okay.
Miss Thompson. So, oh, and I had them like to create a poll. I write a statement and then they answer it with a poll.
Okay, so just getting that feedback from them.
Yes.
So basically, what you were doing, you saying that you just did Nearpod with your own material, so you hadn't used the Nearpod lessons.
I used Nearpod lessons. I created my own. Nearpod I used. They have some like vocabulary lessons, which is a matching. It's a matching game.
Right.
I use that. I created my own with open-ended polls and multiple choice. I'm looking at the library, and I use the reports. The reports are really good because it does give you an idea of how the students are doing.
And honestly, it's very helpful. I will say, in my own experience of using Nearpod, when I had a substitute, it takes that strain away as well, or the anxiety for the substitute and for you as a teacher, because I know that we all can be a little territorial. But Nearpod does the grading. You know, it takes care of all that information and things. So it's certainly a relief when you can't be with your students as well as when you are teaching with them.
They do, and it's because it's interactive. Most of the students participate.
Right. They see it as competitive.
Yeah,
I noticed that as well. As I mentioned, the PL survey is in the chat for anyone. If you don't have any questions after you complete the survey, you are free to go. I appreciate all of you today contributing and getting involved in the lesson. I hope that you saw something today that was useful to you, or that even whether you've already been using Nearpod or you're new to it, maybe it can enhance your lessons. I just really hope that would assist you guys. I see I have a question. Ms. Warner?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Eubanks.
Yes,
good morning, everyone. Ms. Eubanks, excellent job of sharing and showing us how to use this tool. I do want to reiterate to everyone, because I know that with the challenges, all the many challenges that come up in the virtual world, we definitely have even more anxiety now when we're away from the classroom. The way that Ms. Eubanks was showing a little bit earlier about how she used Nearpod for her substitute completely changed the students' attitude towards the teacher not being in the room.
Right.
And it made the sub so happy that not only did they have access to the information, but if a child had a question, they were able to, the sub and Ms. Archie were able to see how the students were responding in Ms. Eubanks' absence. And I wanted her to include this in the lesson because of that. And nothing, we were able to keep the momentum of the class because the students felt like they were still connected to the teacher, even though Ms. Eubanks could not formally speak with them as they were in class. So please make a sticky note, jot a note down to yourself to consider adding this to your instructional toolbox, particularly for those times that you have to submit asynchronous lessons. The last part is if any of you are have forgotten which sessions that you signed up for this afternoon, I did place that in chapter 6, where you can just look on the spreadsheet and see what sessions you signed up for after lunch for your 3rd and 4th sessions. Got a lot of calls this morning, so I wanted to make sure that you had that at easy access at your fingertips. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Eubanks. Awesome job.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eubanks. Excellent. Thank you. I feel empowered.
Not a problem.
Seriously. All right.
I appreciate you guys. Awesome.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Thank you.
Ms. Eubanks, can I
Yes,
ask you a quick
ma'am.
question?
You
Well, first
sure
of all, thank
can.
you for this.
problem.
This was great. When you place this in Verge, do you just put it on like a new page, like inside of folders, like your kids would know, okay, if this is the folder for this week, I know to go here to find my assignments, and you line them up on the page?
Yes, ma'am. Just like that. Just
Okay.
like that. And I just once they click the link, they'll see the due date. But I also go ahead and type that in Verge as well, so they can see it automatically. Like this is due by this date. But yes, I do exactly like that.
Okay, I wasn't gonna use this because I was like, there's usually not anything for technology and engineering, and I don't always have time to make everything from scratch, but I see different components that I can use.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Oh, not a problem at all. I'm glad you found something. I think that was my main thing. I said I want something that connections can connect to. So I wanted to make sure you guys felt that you were included as well. So that's awesome.
Definitely, I appreciate that. Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, you do the same. I appreciate all of you. If you've done the survey, again, you are welcome. We are on break now until 1 o'clock. So go enjoy some lunch or just take a break. But thank y'all so much for today. Y'all did great. If you have something that you want to contribute or if you still have questions, I am available. Or if you want to send me an email, I got you.
Excellent job, Ms. Eubanks. If I could share with you, I really appreciate how you included every content.
Oh, yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of comments about that in the chat. They also that you were intentional about showing it, because sometimes, we can talk and then the listener gets lost because they can't see what you're doing, what you're talking about.
Right.
Yes. So that was awesome. And I was so glad you even found the art piece.
Oh, I was so excited. I can't wait till Mr. Peavy come. I had something for him too.
Oh, good.
I was like, I want everybody to feel like they're in a meeting that means something to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So absolutely.
It's all about time, for everybody. So thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Right. And I of course, everybody, like you said, you want everyone to walk away saying, okay, I can use this. And I love that Miss Thompson was added in how, okay, I've used this before, but wait a second, not like this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So now that you're familiar with it, you can spice it up a little bit.
Yeah,
And I had that too with the first session. A few teachers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Miss Glass has her hand up. I'm sorry, Miss Glass. I didn't
No,
even
you
look at
fine. No, you fine. But I just, Eubanks, I just have a quick question. Okay, you said that the panoramic view was hard to see without the glasses. Is that right? And the reason I ask is because Gabriel has been using Nearpod with his classes. So I've been learning more with what they're doing. But last week they had asynchronous classes all week. And one of the assignments was with Nearpod, and they had to take a tour about Dr. Martin Luther King, and she used what you said. But I didn't know you're supposed to have glasses to look through those things to see it better, or what?
Yeah, that's why it wasn't probably that clear.
Well, I mean, all she showed was like different images of Dr. Martin Luther King, the History Center in DC, his tall statues, bodies of water. So and we just moved around in it, but I wasn't sure how, if it was supposed to be anything different than what we were seeing.
The whole like it's supposed to turn into like a virtual reality, and Nearpod has their own brand of virtual reality glasses, but that's once this like the school system say buys into it, and they'll provide like 5 pair of glasses per classroom because they're pretty expensive, but that will give them more overall experience. But it's not to say that you can't do it without them. It's just it's not the same experience. So that's why I don't promote it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I was like, he did that last week, but he just was able to read different things that it said. Dr. Martin Luther King is this and what was on there. So, okay. All right.
So that's what it is. That's what it is.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Not a problem at all.
All right.
Got it. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
Miss Eubanks.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Miss Owens.
How you doing, Miss Owens?
I'm good. I'm well. Could I come to your class during my planning time and observe you do